At the standard rate of 24 frames a second, a 1 minute long animation requires 1,440 individual drawings. An hour of animation requires 86,400 drawings. Creating a feature-length animated film, therefore, is a gargantuan task that requires an army of animators. And as with any army, this number has to be divided up into various ranks and categories. For Snow White, the top rank, of course, was Walt Disney himself, the studio head and producer. Every frame of animation had to be inspected and approved by Walt, otherwise it had to be redone. Operating below Walt was the supervising director, David Hand. Hand would supervise a team of sequence directors: Wilfred Jackson, Ben Sharpstein, Perce Pierce, Larry Morey, and William Cottrell. If Walt Disney approved the animation they brought to him, then they had done their job correctly. If not, they would have to do it over. The film's layout was divided up into 31 separate sequences, and each man was assigned several of these sequences to oversee, with his own unit of animators to create each sequence. These animators were again divided into several categories: supervising animators, who would oversee individual characters, actions, or scenes; key animators, who would draw key poses, or the poses that were the most important to any action or sequence; in-betweeners, who would fill in the animation between the key poses; and assistant or cleanup animators, who would refine or fix the drawings when necessary. These were not necessarily set roles, and animators could perform multiple roles as needed. For instance, the supervising animators often did the key animation themselves, and sometimes even animated whole sequences. In addition to this, characters and scenes respectively would also have their own units working on them, and so there was a lot of crossover between who was assigned to work on what. To create their animation, each animator was given a handout by the sequence director. This handout contained a copy of the layout of the scene they would be working on, a copy of the film's storyboard so they could see how their scene fit into the overall story, a tape or record of the soundtrack of their scene, an exposure sheet that matched the timing of the soundtrack to the frames of animation so everything could match up perfectly, and maquettes of the characters the animator would be animating.